Morning, Nick.
Morning, Peter.
How are you?
Doing great.
So the last couple of times I've done this, I've forgot to record. We've had to go back and we've had to do it again, but we remember today. Okay, big morning.
It is. Here we are in LA.
We're in LA. Okay, we're probably going to run for about an hour.
Okay.
The Bitcoin price was 61,500-ish
Yep.
when we started. What do we think? Under, over by the time we're done?
6420, 64,200.
So you're going over. You think by the time we're done this interview,
Why not?
you think we'll go 3,000?
Why not?
All right.
I mean, snap of the finger.
I'll tell you what, 50,000 sats. Do you want
I don't even know how much a sat is. Let's do it.
50,000 sats will go 62,500 under, over. I'll take either.
Okay, I'll take over.
I'll take under.
All right.
Sweet, man.
Sold.
All right, we'll check the price at the end. We'll get Pete over there to keep an eye on the price. Big morning. Like, we've had a rough couple of months with Bitcoin.
Certainly have. Mining has been in a little bit tough, but we're still, we're still out here putting these blocks together and making sure the thing keeps going.
Well, we should introduce you to everyone. You're Nick. You're from Luxor, the mining pool I use because I'm back mining.
Absolutely. Welcome back. Mining is the salt of the earth. That's what all of this is built on, is the ability to produce blocks, change the state of the Bitcoin network every approximately 10 minutes, and off we go.
Well, I wanted to talk to you. I did an interview with Harry Suddock.
I listened to it a couple times. The man is brilliant.
Well, what was it he said? The remittance companies are kneeling on the throats of the internationally disadvantaged. Yeah. Do you know, he just rolls those out. I was like,
No. He certainly sits at home on Sunday night with a glass of cognac and just thinks of things.
Hey, you calling him out?
No. He's a brilliant man.
Yeah, he is. But he was talking to me about pools, and he said something interesting, which I'm going to come back to you. Because he said to me he thinks the pool fees trend to zero, and pools end up becoming service providers. But we'll come to that.
Okay.
We're going to talk a little bit about pools.
Okay.
Not too much, because
it's kind of boring.
It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good business for you.
It's good business for me. It's good business for Barry. But yeah, it is a little bit boring. There's a lot more interesting things in mining right now.
Yeah. Well, listen, I want to find out a bit more about how pools work. When did you set up Luxor?
So I'll give you a super brief intro to Luxor. So Luxor was originally founded in 2017 as a nights and weekends project between me and my original co-founder, Eddie. And during that time, we were mostly just building something completely unrelated to mining. We were actually trying to build like a decentralized S3, like the storage thing that Amazon provides. That didn't work, but we found that there was this one altcoin that we were interested in that had all of its hash rate on one pool, like 99% of the hash rate was on a single pool. And so we decided, let's figure out how to make a mining pool for this other coin. And that's how we got started. And then over a couple of years, we launched different types of pools, culminating in Bitcoin in late 2018. And then finally, I went full time. My first full time day was July 1st, 2019, and we've been off to the races ever since.
Wow. Okay, so I don't know what's involved in. We get Laurie. Get a little bit of acoustics from the lorry. I don't know what's involved in setting up a pool, but I can imagine the difficulty at the start is having enough hash rate so you are actually hitting blocks. Because if you solo mine, my 5S19s, if I solo mine, I probably never mine a block. So your challenge at the start is to have enough hash rate for people to want to join your pool because you are mining blocks.
So yeah, that's a really good point. Getting off the ground is tough, but if we use the payment methodology that Luxor uses, when miners join our pool, it doesn't really matter if we find blocks. We have to front the payments. It's called pay per share. So maybe this is a good segue into kind of how a pool works.
Yeah.
But so the way mining pools work today mostly is you can think of it very similar to a lottery. Guess a number between 1 and 1,000, and if you get the right number, you win $1,000. That means in that scenario, every lottery ticket is worth $1, right? So it has an expected value of $1, right? So you submit your tickets to me, and I pay you $1 for them. Actually, I pay you 97 cents because that's how we make our fee. But you keep submitting them, and then eventually we get the winning ticket, and then we cash it in, and then we keep the 1,000, right? So sometimes it takes more tickets, sometimes it takes less, but on average, we find the exact number of tickets just due to the probabilistic nature of mining. And so, all that's to say, as a miner, the way pools work today, it doesn't really matter if the pool is finding blocks as long as you're getting paid. So we started with that methodology from the start because we feel it's the most honest and true way to pay. Like PPLNS is a different way where all the tickets are grouped together, and then once the winning ticket is found, then everybody that submitted tickets gets the proportion. So in this case, in the case that I was describing before, say we find the lottery number on ticket number 10, we take those 10 tickets and we group them up together. You submitted 4, I submitted 6. I get 60% of the reward and you get 40. In that case, it's actually quite easy for the pools to inject extra tickets that were not actually like purchased in this rudimentary example. And in that case, you do have to make sure that the pool is mining blocks consistently. So that's a little bit about how pools work. It's all mathematical, and it makes it pretty easy. Yep, it's all probability. So
some pools do it whereby the number of blocks they mine, they take the Bitcoin, then they take their fee and they evenly split it out to everyone. But you guys, you already agree up front what you're going to pay.
Right. Yep.
So in some ways, it sounds like you're not so much of a traditional pool. In some ways, you are renting my hash rate.
Yeah, so you can think of it as purchasing hash rate. The mining pool is the single buyer, and then all of the miners are sellers. And so we have pioneered this idea through another property that Luxor owns called Hash Rate Index. And that tracks the value of hash rate over time and basically is demonstrating what the mining pool should be paying for your hash rate at any point in time. So hash price today is up. It's about 42 cents per terahash. So if you submit 1 terahash to us for a day, you'll get 42 cents. Obviously, your machines do quite a lot more than that. So you're getting 550 terahash times that hash price, and that's about how much you'll get per day.
But did you have to hit like a tipping point for that to work? Because because I'm thinking like I said, if I solo mine, I know mathematically at some point I will mine a block, but that could be, I don't know if it's years or decades away. But as I say bought more miners, that the chance increases and I reduce my risk. With you guys, I'm assuming there's like a certain tipping point you had to reach whereby you were ensuring you're going to mine enough blocks.
So that's certainly a risk of getting into mining pools. So we started as altcoin pools where the stakes are much lower, right? We started on a coin that had a market cap like 1/500th of Bitcoin, which in that case, a single person like me and Eddie could fund what we call it funding the PPS, meaning we are willing to put our money, we put our money up front, and we believe in our pool. We're going to mine blocks eventually, and then people started to join the pool. We started offering services on top of the pool. It attracted more and more customers at this time to an altcoin pool. But the idea is still the same, is that we started with a much smaller stakes. And then when we got to Bitcoin, we already had a track record of producing blocks on other chains. And so when it came time to mine for Bitcoin, we had that experience. We also had a bit of a bankroll. So that made it quite a bit, a little less scary, but still, very scary.
And you're mining. I'd love to know a bit more about this. So you're mining blocks daily. But when you first started, was it kind of like a case of just sitting there like, are we going to get one?
Yeah.
Like ring a bell?
Absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And when you eventually do, you're like, oh shit, great.
Holy shit, we got one. We did it. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
So in them first days, like, was it like one a week, one every couple of days?
It could be 1 a week. And then you could get super lucky and have a couple a day. It's pretty wild. So getting started off the ground, that is pretty crazy. But we're past that now, and kind of hearkening to Harry's the view that Harry had about mining pools eventually going to zero. We view that right now the way you should think about hash rate is actually as an asset itself. Like the value of your hash rate changes over time and has some value at every point in time. The public markets we see Marathon and Riot, they get valued based on the amount of petahash they have, not actually as much about the Bitcoin that they produce. That's more of a that's more of a subscript to the overall hash rate production that they get, and they get a very attractive multiple on the hash rate that they produce. So right now, what we're seeing is a bit of a decoupling from the value of the hash rate to the network and the value of hash rate to the market.
How much hash rate do you guys have?
Across all of our mining pools and our partners, about 5-ish exahash.
And what does that mean?
So it's a little under 5%.
Okay, but you've got up to a little under 5% of the total hash rate.
Yeah, that's between us and our partners. Yeah,
that's pretty fucking.
It's pretty
cool.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So what are the challenges you then face?
So actually building a mining pool is a rather technical task. We take in the lottery ticket in that previous example. That's actually called a share. So when you're mining, you see your number of valid shares, and that's actually your lottery ticket. Well, we take in tens of thousands of those every second, and so that becomes a pretty large data problem, having to manage that. So it's actually a rather technical task, and then you also have to get into having like resilient network connections, so making sure that your miners actually stay connected. That is another big task that we have to solve. And so effectively we've produced these like Stratum load balancers, which is Stratum is the protocol that your miner speaks. So when your miner is connected to Luxor Pool, it's speaking a protocol called Stratum. And so we built these load balancers that move the hash rate, in case there's like a dead pod or something, we move hash rate over here. And that's all very technical work. And so those are the biggest challenges, most of them technical.
I'll tell you something funny. So when Compass approached me to sponsor the podcast, and I said, well, I want to mine. I like to be a customer of all my sponsors. And so I purchased the miners, and a big shout out to Colin at your team who hooked me up, did everything. And I've got it set up, and it's quite addictive going in every day and having a look, especially when the price moves.
It's amazing.
But let me tell you the funny thing. It's like I keep getting these emails from people, and they keep saying, yo, Pete, I see you're back mining. Have you run the comparison? Like, would it not be better to buy spot? What's the benefit of mining over spot? And I was just like, I told Harry a different theory, but the truth is, it's just fucking cool to be back contributing. Like, just to be given, I own a little bit of the hash rate that provides the security to the Bitcoin network. And can I tell you whether or not buying $47,000 of Bitcoin at the time I bought those miners, or buying those miners, will work out better in the long run? I've got no idea. It probably works out about even, I imagine.
Yeah, especially at your scale, the margin there is going to be, maybe 20% one way or the other. You're probably not going to lose too much, and you're probably not going to outperform Bitcoin that much. But when you start getting to like mega scale, you're massively outperforming Bitcoin, because you can produce it at such a low cost. Yeah. I don't know what Marathon produces their Bitcoin at, but I imagine it's less than $10,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
holy shit.
Yeah, so they're producing Bitcoin with a massive margin, and so then they can sell that. They sell that Bitcoin. If price goes up, they're also exposed to that as well.
But that means there's still massive room in the market for competition for the total hash rate to go up.
Absolutely. Oh, we are in like a golden age of mining, where there's more money than you can imagine flowing into mining. All the sites across the United States, West Texas is effectively a mecca. If you've ever flown over North Dakota, not a lot of people have. I wasn't actually there, but I know somebody that just flew there, and they said it looks like New York City with all of the flare gas that's out in North Dakota coming off of all these oil rigs, and those are all just prime spots that could be capped with Bitcoin mines.
We've got so many things I want to get into.
Okay, let's do it.
Just sticking on this subject for the moment, let me tell you my actual investment thesis on mining, because I said it to Harry. He disagreed with it slightly, but I have loose capital within my business. My podcast is a business. I used to keep 8 weeks cash flow, business and personal, in the bank, and then the rest would go into Bitcoin. I extended that out because we're now mid-bull market. I went to 12 weeks, but I was extending out the cash in the business because there's things I want to invest in my team. I want to get a studio, yada, yada. So I had cash in my bank account. I didn't want to buy more Bitcoin with that, because if we had I bought another couple of Bitcoin, say the price did another 50% crash, and I need that money, that's a problem.
Right.
But if I buy the miners, even when the price drops 50%, the price of the miners do not drop 50%. The miners have actually increased in value, so I've got a yield in terms of the value of the capital, but I'm also earning a yield with the Bitcoin.
Right.
So if everything being equal and like a steady market, in my head I was like, well, my miners hold their value. So that 47,000 I put in, actually now is worth about 55, I think.
Probably.
Maybe gone up today. But I'm also, over that year, I will say if I mine one Bitcoin, I essentially double my money. So it's, for me, I was treating getting mining as like as a interest account for my dollars.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So the other part that you were in that podcast with Harry, you were mentioning was like I could get easy access to the capital for those machines. I could get that. I could easily sell them. He did have a good point that it could take a little while, right? Where having Bitcoin directly, if I needed to sell a Bitcoin today, I can sell that and get cash into my bank account effectively the same day. Where selling some miners may take a few days, or
that would be a weird emergency for me though to need it like immediately.
Right.
And if I did, I could take a loan out for the bank and cover that period of time.
Right.
But it was, for me, it's like the miners are a derivative of Bitcoin, but they're a stable derivative.
So why don't you put all your Bitcoin in then? If it's going to make 50% more, why wouldn't you just buy all of it?
Well, it's a good question. I don't know if the Bitcoin outperforms the miners. That's what I don't know. Secondly, can't get any equipment. I mean, people think I get preferential from Compass. They helped me get set up at the start, but they were machines they had in stock. But if I'm on the same waiting list as them, I cannot get any machines. Oh, and even if you can get machines, there's infrastructure issues as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, okay, so there's so much to unpack in all of that. Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, you're right. You can't really get machines. Even if you came to me with $1 million a day, it's really tough to get machines, right? Compass is doing a phenomenal job, and they're one of our preferred partners. We love working with them. We have a referral, so if somebody buys a Compass miner and then plugs it into Luxor, they refer them over. We have a discount and all of that. So we love the Compass guys, and I think that the model they put together really democratizes mining. And I was really hoping somebody would do it, and really excited to see that they brought that to market. But back to your point about actually getting machines, really tough. And then if you actually get the machines, trying to get them plugged in right now is really, really tough. So Luxor we bought about 1 megawatt worth of miners. And then it was almost like pulling teeth to find anybody in the entire country that would give us 1 megawatt, which is not a lot. That's not a lot of miners. And meaning like just our entire network, nobody was able to give up 1 megawatt of space. It's just that crunched right now. They are building quickly, and there's a lot of infrastructure coming online, but that's not going to happen until Q1 or Q2 of next year. Probably late Q1, early Q2, we'll start to see some of the stuff that was turned on, or the projects that were turned on as a result of the China ban, really start to come online, and then we're going to see a meteoric rise in hash rate.
Are you guys mining as well?
We mine a little bit, right?
A little bit,
so we use it mostly as like a test bed. We build a lot of hash rate based products. We need to have some hash rate to test with. So mostly we use it for testing. I mean, it's a nice little bit of revenue as well to add to the balance sheet. But in general, we're not really purchasing miners as our core business. It's just a supplement.
So I tell you what's really interesting with all this. We've had a big year in Bitcoin, right? We've had everything that Michael Saylor's done with MicroStrategy, everything Jack Dorsey's done to support Bitcoin. We've had Tesla, whatever, despite Elon Musk being a bit of a dick with Doge, it's really interesting that Tesla invested, and their purchase is now very much in the green. We've had a lot of political maneuvering with regards to Bitcoin. We've had just so much stuff happening. It's like today, the ETF we found out about Valkyrie.
Yep.
But what's really super interesting to me is I think the story of the last year is really mining. I think that's been the biggest story of Bitcoin right now for a couple of reasons. And I'm not the most educated on this, but a couple of days ago, I was at Governor Abbott's house, mansion in Texas, as an invite from the Texas Blockchain Council. And that room was filled with miners, investors, and oil and gas people.
ONG, yep.
Yeah, and it was and listening to him talk about Texas being open for business, we want to support Bitcoin, we want to be part of this. For me, it was just like a real moment of, wow, this is a big deal. We've seen Ted Cruz come out very much supporting Bitcoin. A lot of people within the Republican Party supporting Bitcoin. We've seen everything that's happened with the hash rate migrate outside of China and have zero impact upon the network in terms of security. Blocks kept getting produced. I think mining is the big story of Bitcoin over the last year.
Mining is Bitcoin. Without mining, there is no Bitcoin. So it is the everything that we trade, everything that we all the value that's derived from the Bitcoin network starts from a little machine in a warehouse somewhere producing the blocks. So at the end of the day, Bitcoin is mining. So many things to touch on that you kind of touched on. So I mean, we'll talk a little bit about the China ban. Because that catalyzed everything that we're seeing now. I mean, America was definitely going to outpace China over the next 3 to 5 years in the mining space anyway, just because the amount of energy that we have is far outpaces what they have coming online. But this, obviously having it actually get banned in China, it supercharged that, right? They're building faster than they could possibly build. They're doing everything they can. Money is just fire hosing into projects to get online. So, talking about the China ban,
thank you, China. Finally,
absolutely,
finally,
yeah.
Like fuck off.
The FUD is real this time. We've never. I've been around for a long time. We've heard of Chinese bans for a long time, China banning exchanges or banning mining or banning production of miners or all sorts of things. Who knows? This time it actually happened. It was really strange this spring of this year to see, actually hearing from our Bitcoin, our Chinese counterparts, like, yep, this is coming. We're moving. Like, and there was, I heard stories of people that had their machines on boats in the ocean somewhere, trying to figure out where they're going to put all those machines when they come to the U.S. or other places around the world. It was sprung very quickly. So they actually banned mining, which is crazy. Like, that catalyzed the first wave of bans, and now they actually they banned the exchange of cryptocurrency now. So effectively, it's entirely banned, all cryptocurrency in China. So
let's talk through the China thing. Let's try and theorize.
Okay.
Which basically, for me, is guessing, but it's kind of like, okay, let's take a look at China. It's obviously a very authoritarian state.
Yep.
We know it has social credit scores. And just interesting side point. I've done two. Did you know I have this other podcast, Defiance?
No.
Okay, so I had this other podcast, Defiance, where I used to do non-Bitcoin subjects.
Okay.
I've done 2 interviews with Westerners who live in China in the last year. And before those shows were released, both of them asked them to be pulled. They said, we don't want this. Both people said, don't want this live. It's not good for me. So despite the fact it's like, why would you base yourself in a country where you are fully accepting that
feel that way?
Yeah. But we know it's an authoritarian state. We know it has a social credit score. We know they're pursuing a CBDC, right? Yep. They could ban the exchange and use of Bitcoin. But mining was essentially making their own grid more efficient and putting money into China. So my only theory of why they banned it is that they realized like Bitcoin is unstoppable, so let's just put up a wall around it. Let's essentially, like, they have the great firewall. Mm-hmm. This is their great Bitcoin firewall. Because there's no economic logic to it.
Right.
There's only censorship and control logic.
So we have been hearing about electrical grid brownouts around rolling through China, right?
Okay.
And
what's a brownout?
A brownout is when, like, part of your city is blacked out because it doesn't have enough power, right? Okay. Or your lights are flickering because there's just not enough power coming into the grid to power the entire city. Similar. We have similar things in California and other parts of the United States. Sometimes it's not nearly as common, but I think that was a bigger problem back in like the 80s. But anyway, they're having these brownouts where there's not enough energy for the grid in China. And so my theory was always that they felt like if we turn off these Bitcoin miners, we can funnel that energy into their ultra high voltage line, which allows them to transmit energy very long distances, which is usually a problem.
Harry talked about you basically, it degrades
over time. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And so, but if you bump up the voltage, you can transmit it a lot further. And so they have these ultra high voltage lines. And my thought is that they're probably thinking they're going to put that energy into those UHVs and then pipe that into the big cities. We'll see if that's actually the case. I mean, that makes a little more sense than what you're saying, like purely economically. it makes no sense for them to shut this down unless they view it as something completely unstoppable. And so maybe they kind of got both sides, right? They can get a little bit more power into their cities and kill this thing that could potentially usurp their CBDC.
Yeah, interesting. I hadn't heard about these. I did hear in the last week or so, actually, there were issues with I heard it's blackouts, but energy issues in China. We've got it potentially in the UK come in.
Okay.
It's happened in China and also in India. So I had heard about that. I hadn't made the link to the Bitcoin miners. I'm assuming they weren't taking that much of the power that it would make much of a difference.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. So, actually, Nick Carter was, they were just released a report about how much energy the Bitcoin network actually uses. They said about 10 gigawatts, most likely somewhere around there. I took a little bit different approach, and I said, okay, so there's about 140 exahash on the network right now. If you assume they're all latest gen S19s, which is the most efficient, that means that the network would use about 4.2 gigawatts. And then you can look at the other side of the scale and say, maybe it's all S9s, the worst efficient. I mean, it's not, but we could say if it was the absolute least efficient machine that's running today, it would be about 14.2 gigawatts. So most likely that amount is, the Bitcoin network is somewhere between 4.2 and 14.2 gigawatts, which is not a lot. I mean, the Texas ERCOT is like 80 gigawatts. Right. So it's very, very little. And so if you even assume maybe Bitcoin, China had about half, they're really only getting a few gigawatts, right? And so most likely that's not going to solve their blackout problem.
Right.
They just need to produce more energy.
Yeah. Well, the other interesting thing about the China ban is the resilience of the network.
Absolutely.
That's one of the most impressive things. In that, for a long time, people were concerned about, was it near 50% of the hash rate was in?
Probably more.
Yeah. So that was switched off. We saw a massive drop in hash rate. We saw a move in the difficulty adjustment, but we're back near where we were, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're getting close. The difficulty adjusted during that period where they turned everything off. I mean, the blocks were a little slow. That was maybe the only service degradation that you might have noticed was that maybe it took a little bit longer for your Bitcoin to show up in your Coinbase or your Kraken or whatever your exchange was. But other than that, there was really no disruption. The difficulty readjusted and the blocks started flowing again, and the miners were super happy, of course, because there's less competition. They're able to make a ton. So this year has been kind of a golden age of mining, and the China ban also demonstrates the resiliency of the Bitcoin network and the Bitcoin mining network. As long as there's one computer running Bitcoin, Bitcoin won't die. So we've effectively created this new life form that's going to far outlast all of us and probably humanity.
Do we know how much of the hash rate is here in the US?
We don't, but we can make some estimates. So Nick Carter put out their report, and it looks like it's probably around 35 to 40% now, and it's probably going to be more than 50% over the next year, which it brings up a whole nother slew of problems, right? But I think that we're how do I say? Our states are quite independent, right? Yeah. So if the federal government tried to shut down what's going on in Texas right now, there would be
no chance.
There's no chance that's going to happen. Yep. And not only do they have to shut down what's happening in Texas, they'd have to go to North Dakota and Kentucky and places where traditionally they kind of give the middle finger to the federal government. So I think that it is safer, but we definitely don't want that much hash rate in a single place. So.
Someone told me that when they tried to ban Bitcoin mining in New York, they failed because the energy companies were lobbying, saying these are going to cost jobs.
Yeah. Energy is, Bitcoin is an energy problem. Bitcoin mining is just an energy problem now, right? We're taking electrons, producing Bitcoins. And so if you're really good at producing electrons, like an energy company, you have a vested interest in Bitcoin mining proceeding the way that it is. So 100%, we're going to start to see, some of the biggest power producers in the United States come online and become big supporters of the Bitcoin network.
Well, it gives a lot of regulatory protection to Bitcoin. So if we forget China and Bolivia, and I think Pakistan are 3 places that Bitcoin's banned, I'll have to double check that.
Yeah.
But the rest of the world tends to follow the US.
Right.
So you kind of want regulatory protection in the US now. If the Bitcoin network is generating billions of dollars in terms of revenue for the US, there's a big question over one, banning it, but two, even putting in place too much of like onerous regulation. And it's not even just the miners. You've got the miners.
Right.
You've got the oil and gas people getting into mining. You've got the investment companies investing in Bitcoin. You've got the exchanges. And then you've got all the Bitcoin, which is held by people in the US. The US is actually in a very strong position with Bitcoin.
Right.
To damage that would damage the US economy.
I mean, we're getting there. At 1.1, I mean, it's probably 1.2 trillion now. We'll see if our bet's good, but 1.2 trillion, that's not nothing, right? And if a significant portion of that is within the United States, then like you said, that would be hurting the U.S. economy. Yesterday, I did the math prior to the pod. Yesterday, Bitcoin miners extracted about $55 million worth of Bitcoin out of the network, and that's in one day. So we're looking at a very, very large. We're definitely looking at a huge market, and if they try to cut that off, like you said, they're effectively reducing the number of jobs and removing innovation from the United States.
For me, I have to sometimes like take a step back and say, like, fucking hell, look where we are. Because, I got into Bitcoin twice, but like the first time didn't really count. In 2013, I wasn't really looking at it. I was just trading and using the Silk Road, and I didn't even understand what it was. It was only when I got back in 2017 and set up this podcast. But the podcast was set up as like a joke, a hobby. And here we are 4 years later, and all the things I heard back in 2017, like hyper Bitcoinization, I was like, yeah, all right, I get it, I know what you're saying, but like, come on, we're not going to usurp sovereign currencies. And like, here we are now, we have a country with Bitcoin as legal tender. Mm-hmm. We have other countries we know are looking at Brazil, Ukraine, yada, yada. We have this huge industry in the US. We have sovereign currencies collapsing and the Bitcoin use case being proven. We are at 61.5-ish K as far as we know. But we could easily go over 100K within the next couple of months. Easily, we could go to multiple hundreds of Ks. You can now see this path. You can say, okay, if somebody turned around to you and said, well, Bitcoin could hit 500,000 by the next halving, it's like, yeah, I see it.
100%.
So the interesting thing of the China ban is that we potentially have two different economic worlds. We have the world which has accepted and adopted and uses Bitcoin, and we have the world that doesn't.
Right.
And I don't know what that means. We had a conversation last night because I've said to you before, I don't think this transition is without a lot of pain and difficulty.
Yeah. Moving to a hyper-Bitcoinized world is not going to be a peaceful thing. And that, it's a little scary, certainly, but...
Does it trouble you? Because it troubles me.
Maybe I don't think about it as much as you do. Yeah. I'm just thinking about making sure that my miners are producing as much as they can.
That's the lefty in me.
What's that?
It's the lefty in you?
Me. Yeah. Yeah, that is a really good question. I don't think about that very much, and maybe I should. But I think about all the good that Bitcoin does bring, and
Agreed.
I think that one of the reasons I got into Bitcoin early on originally was that it brings equity to people that have traditionally never had it, right? So, historically, looking at Venezuela or Argentina, where their currency is effectively collapsing over time, Bitcoin offers a life raft, and they have the same rules. It's somebody that owns some Bitcoin in Venezuela or Kazakhstan or anywhere around the world. They have the same set of rules as Michael Saylor, who owns billions and billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And that is incredibly powerful, right? Having the ability to be on equal footing and have equity across all economic status never existed before. Mm-hmm. And right now, I think that we are in this transition. I look for the good side, and I do see that there's probably going to be violence around it, but I don't want to think about that. I want to think about what is the outcome, and I think that the outcome is equity for all.
Well, I think because of the job I do, I have to think of both sides,
right?
And I see the benefits. El Salvador right now, Bukele, outside of what people think of him, took a lot of risk with this.
Absolutely.
Bought a whole bunch of Bitcoin when the price was falling. Steve Hanke, the dickhead, was giving him shit. And today, all the Bitcoin purchase in El Salvador is now in the green.
100%. Yep.
And so that country has gone from 4 consecutive presidents who've stolen from the country, mm-hmm. two hiding out in Nicaragua, one's in jail, one died. They have a new president came in. He said, we've got enough money if we don't steal it. The only way they can get money is borrowing the international markets, and they have a tough economic position. And as a country with a history of problems, like when people email me and say, I want to go to El Salvador, is it safe? I'm like, you know what? I've never had a problem. Now that country has a much reduced issue with gangs and violence. It still exists, but that's reduced. They are now plugged in to the Bitcoin network. And as Jack Mallers would say, an open monetary network. They are plugged in. Every person in that country is plugged into this global network if they want within a few minutes, as long as they have a phone and internet connection. The GDP of the country has had a bit of a boost from this. So I like the fact that these small countries come first. And I like the fact that it brings some equity into capital. I do like that. I do think of both sides, but it's incredible that this is actually happening now. Like I say, 4 years ago, I'd be reading Pierre Rochard's articles on Nakamoto Institute, and I'd be like, yeah, I understand the theory, but come on, like, I'm a doubter sometimes, but like, it's happening.
It is absolutely happening, and there are more dominoes to fall. What's happening in El Salvador, like you said, regardless of what we think of the president that exists now and what their presidents have done in the past, huge step. This is a step that's going to define the trajectory for Bitcoin for the next decade. And they're the first ones to make it. And like you said, it's great to see a smaller country where the overall economic impact may be a little bit smaller on the global scale, but to them, that doesn't matter. They're now plugged into a network that is able to serve their needs and seamlessly transition them to this new, more sound money.
And I think, what was we're up to like 5.4% inflation?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a huge problem. I don't know what to do about it other than just buy Bitcoin. I buy sats every day.
Yeah,
so
buy Bitcoin. That's obviously one of the solutions, but specifically with El Salvador as a dollarized nation, they are going through 5.5%, 5.4% inflation, probably higher.
Yep.
But when Biden prints another $3.5 trillion with the infrastructure bill, that's not building out infrastructure in El Salvador. So we can all hate the infrastructure bill. We can hate the printing of money. It is, as we know, it's a shadow tax.
Right.
But there are some residual benefits to the country in that at least that money filters its way throughout the US. Yep. Now, look, we know unfairly, everyone in Bitcoin will talk about the Cantillon effect, but there is residual benefits to the US. There's no residual benefit to El Salvador at all.
Any dollarized nation is
getting fucked.
Absolutely fucked right now, and there's nothing they can do about it. There are countries.
There's one thing they can.
There's one thing they can do about it, right? And we know what that is. But I think I don't have any solution for you other than that. You have to change your money, and changing your money is hard, but it's important. And we're at a stage in the life cycle of humanity where changing the money may be the biggest step that you can make, and it's awesome to see Bukele, lead the way there, and see if there's others that that follow behind.
Well, we're moving to a world which, if you talk about Bitcoin standard, the thing I like about Bitcoin standard over the gold standard was a centralized standard that can be switched on and off.
Yep.
A Bitcoin standard, well, I mean, I guess somebody could operate their own gold standard, but it's less viable because gold isn't so liquid, and you can't use it in shops, etc.
The malleability, the fungibility of gold. Gold is somewhat fungible, but it's not transferable. If I need to pay for something in El Salvador, I have to ship them some gold. If I need to pay for something with Bitcoin, it's done in 10 minutes. So,
but a Bitcoin standard is completely optional and down to the individual. I operate on a semi-Bitcoin standard now. I talked about keeping most of my money in Bitcoin. I'm sure you're very similar.
Yep.
That is my standard. You're on the same standard as me. And the more people that come onto this standard, this changes the incentive models. And that's the really interesting thing. I like the fact we're going to move to a world of prudence and rewarding the savers and the prudent people rather than rewarding the risk takers. Well, I say risk takers. People in government aren't taking a risk.
No.
Well, they are with our money.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're not taking a personal risk, because they're the cantillionaires. Absolutely.
Harry said it best. Bitcoin demonetizes the political class.
Yes.
And I love the way that he says that. It's so succinct, because that's exactly what it does, right? It allows us to opt out of the decision-making that is effectively out of our control. And now the decisions, while they are also out of our control, we know exactly what they are and what they will be forever, right? The Bitcoin network does not change unless we agree to it.
I still struggle communicating this to my friends, right?
Right.
Like, my friends know exactly what I do for a job. They see on Instagram, they see on Twitter, whatever. They're like, they see me touring the world, doing interviews, talking about Bitcoin. They see that. And I can go down the pub when I get back to, I actually am, because I fly back on the 29th. I land back on the day before my birthday. I'm going to be down with my friends in the pub. One of the conversations alongside football and everything else is going to be Bitcoin. They're going to ask me what's going on. And I'm going to be like, guys, have you bought any? And not one of them, I'm telling you, not one of them is going to go, yep. Yeah, I've been saying to them, inflation is coming. Bitcoin is your hedge. It's your long-term hedge. I've explained everything that happens in my podcast. Let's put it a different way. I've warned them. I've been warning them for, even better. Like, actually, so it's periods. So since 2017, I've been educating them about Bitcoin.
Right.
From around 2020, early 2020, I've been warning them about what's coming, especially through the pandemic. I was like, okay, now it's definitely coming. And now it's happening. Mm-hmm. And they're seeing it. They're seeing high inflation. Mm-hmm. They're seeing supply chain issues. I still struggle to convert people.
The conversion, I have the same conversations with my friends.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the weird Bitcoin guy in my friend group. You know, we go golfing, we go, to a show, we go to a game, and we talk about Bitcoin. And same exact thing that happened to you. None of them has ever actually bought any Bitcoin. They all feel like it's too late, right? They feel like, oh, the run up has happened. And I'm like, if you look at the world, if you look at what's happening around the world, the U.S. especially, we're not too late. You're at the very beginning of what is a massive wave of devaluation of everything that you own. So jump on now or be left behind, unfortunately. And they're going to get left behind. I don't know what to tell them.
Well, they have to get comfortable with a couple of subjects. They've got to get comfortable with the idea that Bitcoin can go up forever.
That's really hard for people to understand.
But that's the point. It can go up forever. There is no ceiling to this. They have to get comfortable with the idea it's volatile. They have to get comfortable with the idea that if they buy Bitcoin, they've got to forget about that for years. They've got to get comfortable around, I think as a first step, they've got to get comfortable around those ideas, like security and multi-sigs and mining, and that can all come later, but they have to get comfortable with that idea that it's an inelastic supply. Mm-hmm. They've got to get comfortable with the fact that we don't know what's going to happen, but I'm trying to encourage them, and I can't do it. I can't fucking do it. One guy bought some Tron, made a load of money. Motherfucker.
What an asshole. Yeah, my friends, they messaged me. They're like, what do you think of Shiba just got listed on Bitcoinbase?
My fucking sister bought Shiba. She messaged me the other day and I was like, what are you doing? It's a shitcoin, I've told you. And then she got back to me the other day and she goes, I was right.
How much did she make?
I don't know.
100% or more?
A bit more, I think.
Oh my gosh, it hurts, right?
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that getting people into Bitcoin is going to be tough. They are going to have to do it. They're going to have to come to the well, right? We can show them the water. They can't make them drink, just like, the old saying. Getting, everybody that's listening to this podcast, actually a lot of them have one of my favorite ways of describing Bitcoin in their Twitter handles. So probably a lot of the people that are going to listen to this is the infinity symbol over 21 minutes. Yeah. Because that is the price of Bitcoin. And at the end of the day, the infinity, that represents all of the fiat money that has been printed and has yet to be printed. Just heard the other day when Obama left office, there was about an $8 trillion deficit, and it's
29.
What's that?
29 now,
and we're going to eclipse. We're going to probably eclipse 30 this year.
Yeah, the
$30 trillion.
The meaningless debt ceiling.
Yeah, $30 trillion. So that means since 2016, we've printed $22 trillion. That's never going to get paid back. The only way they're going to pay that back is by inflating it away.
They inflate it away, or if they're smart, they could have bought some Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to come buy $30 trillion worth of Bitcoin, be my guest.
Yeah, we're in.
I'm take it. I'm happy.
I'll take your fucking
Just
money.
hit the market buy button.
Oh, okay. Can we talk about Taiwan?
Okay.
Yeah. But I specifically want to talk about chips.
Okay.
I want to talk about ASICs and the supply issues within the market.
Okay.
Because I probably would buy some more ASICs now if I could. And I know there's a short supply, and I know there's a global chip shortage.
There is.
Explain to me what's going on there. Is it to do with silicon? Is it to do with supply chain issues, COVID? Is it all of that? What's going on?
Okay, so I will caveat that I am not an expert in the chip manufacturing process, but being in our industry, I've talked to a lot of people that know a lot about this. So some of the things that I say may not be perfectly correct, but I'm just trying to reiterate the stories that I've heard. So the TSMC, for people that don't know, is the manufacturer that builds the chips that go into everything that you have. That little device you have there, to the phone, to my watch, to the cameras, to everything. TSMC.
What's that?
Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company or something.
So there's only one.
And there's actually a couple, but TSMC is the one that everybody talks about because it's the biggest. And so they produce chips for everything, right? So getting Bitcoin mining chips into the TSMC backlog is very, very difficult. Bitmain has a relationship there and is able to get those allocations. They call them allocations. So they know that they're going to get their chips, on day X, and then probably next quarter, so 90, X plus 90 days, and then X plus 180 days. But the problem now is that it's actually not as much a chip shortage for Bitmain. Bitmain has manufacturing problems, right? So they can't actually get the machines the chips that they've already got into machines and out the door into customer hands. And so it actually is a confluence of events that's produced this massive crunch in the ASIC markets. There's also some rumors that Bitmain is holding on to machines and not actually putting them into the market because they don't want to flood the market with supply. Because right now they're able to sell them for such a premium. But I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay, because if they could sell it for 9,000 now, whatever the price is. They wait till the end of the year, they could sell them for 25,000 potentially. I've been told 25,000 ASICs are coming.
$25,000 S19s. Yeah. Actually, who said that first? JP Barrick from Mining Store. I think he said 20K, and I was like, "You're out of your mind." But actually, he's probably right now.
They started out like 2K, right?
Yeah, MSRP for one, I think when they first came out was around $3,000, and now the futures are, we keep track of this on Hash Rate Index. We have something called the Rig Index where we track the value of different types of ASICs over time. So some secondary, some futures, and the value of an S19 is effectively just a line that goes up and to the right. There was a little dip in the summer here when we had that dip in Bitcoin price, but I think right now the value of an S19 is a little around $12,000 if I had to guess. Just based on the Rig Index data.
So the TSMC?
Yeah, the TSMC. Yep.
That's probably geopolitically one of the most important companies in the world right
certainly.
now.
Yep, certainly. And they have, going back to Bitmain actually relinquished their allocation twice in a row. They gave up their allocation for new chips last quarter, and I think this quarter as well. And the reason for that is they just can't get the machines built. And so they have to offshore all of that manufacturing, and it looks like it's going to other parts of Southeast Asia. I think Malaysia right now is the de facto manufacturing site for Bitmain, and I believe WhatsMiner as well.
Okay. So I'm really interested in understanding how much of the market that the TSMC has.
Yeah.
What are the chip manufacturers that are? Because
so Samsung has a manufacturer, and they're partnered with Bitfury. Bitfury claims to have a 5 nanometer chip that should be coming out. I don't know if it's out or not. There, haven't heard any news on that, but there are other manufacturers. They just aren't as big. Right, so there's Samsung has theirs, and then there's another one called Global Foundry, but I don't know what their capacity is, and they may not be able to do 5 nanometer.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about something I'm definitely on my depth on, and it's a little uncomfortable.
I'm getting close.
You know what I'm going to talk about. You can contribute as much as you want to this, but I, like most people, are very concerned about China as a country and its influence around the world. It's a soft form of imperialism. Creating debt obligations in countries around the world through the Belt and Road Initiative. I'm concerned about geopolitical issues relating to global debt, slowdown in the global economy, and the impact that's going to have. I think we're heading into very strange and unusual times. Times I thought were always from the history books, not something I would see in my lifetime. Specifically with regards to China, following the takeover of Hong Kong, President Xi has been talking about Taiwan. And I can't remember the exact words, but reunifying China. And then we know there's been planes circling around Taiwan. And we know there are, I think the US or the UK might have deployments out there. It seems like if there is a threat to Taiwan, I don't believe there'd ever be a war over it. I just don't see it. But there is a economic, geopolitical reason for China to want to take control of the TSMC.
Yes.
Because they will be controlling a vast amount of the chips that Western companies need for their products.
Yes.
that appears to be an issue. And I read somewhere, or somebody told me that a likely outcome is an attempt to try and move the TSMC to another country, which says to me that there was no appetite for war, thankfully. Mm-hmm. And I would feel very sorry for the people of Taiwan because I've been there. It's a beautiful place. But that seems to me like a big issue at the moment.
Lots to unpack there.
Yeah.
The TSMC is, like you said, that becomes a geopolitical pawn. And I believe that it's a very, very important one, more like a geopolitical rook or bishop, maybe, not a pawn. That is a very important piece in the puzzle. They are building other foundries. They just take a long time to build. They're trying to build, I believe they're building one in Arizona. They've already announced this. And it should be state-of-the-art, meaning it can produce all the chips that exist today and probably even more different types.
Probably more expensive being built in
the US?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would expect so.
But that's okay. Maybe if it avoids a global war, a proxy war via Taiwan with the West versus the East, I think we can pay a little bit more for chips. As for what happens with Taiwan, you've reached the end of my my knowledge.
I mean, look, we don't need to get into that as such. We can agree and understand there are geopolitical reasons why this is a topic of conversation at the moment, but I think there are probably people who are better at discussing this.
It's funny how our little niche of the industry, of the overall chip industry, right? So TSMC, they build chips for Apple, they build chips for Ford. These are massive companies, and Microsoft, all these companies that have technological devices, they all require chips. They're all having the same conversation on. I don't know if there's probably an Apple podcast somewhere. They're talking about what's going to happen with TSMC. This doesn't affect just us. This affects everyone. But the way that it affects us is that the value of our S19s now go up, and it makes it very difficult to get new ones. And the Bitcoin mining ecosystem hasn't really had this, this kind of crunch in a long time. We've always pretty much had access to chips. The value of S9s, they never really had this meteoric rise like the value of S19s have. From their base price when I think the S9 when it was originally released was $2,500.
I bought 70 of them.
70 of them?
Back in November 17.
And you didn't leave them on?
So I'll talk you through what happened. I bought 70 of them. A friend of mine said, need to get into mining. I managed to get an allocation. I had to buy it with Bitcoin Cash, motherfuckers.
Wait, brand new ones?
Yeah, brand new ones.
Okay.
Straight from Bitmain.
Yep.
I bought 70 of them. November, I thought they were around 2,000, 2,500.
Yep.
By December, they were selling on Amazon. For around 5,500, 6,000, and I was like, I maybe should sell these, but I wanted my Bitcoin.
Yeah, you should have sold them.
Oh, dude,
yeah, because then they went down. So we tracked the value of S9. So that was right around.
Let me tell you what happened. So
okay, let's do it.
I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Right?
Where did you put them?
So they went into a hosted facility in Texas, but it wasn't a Bitcoin-specific mining facility. It was just like a data hosting center.
Got it. Do you have any idea how much you were paying?
I know exactly what I was paying.
What were we paying?
What do you think?
11 cents.
I wish.
More than 11 cents?
18 cents.
Wow.
Yeah.
You could have plugged those in your basement. Wow.
But dude, I plugged them in. They plugged in January, and I made Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It was great. February, kind of broke even. March, I was like, what the fuck? And eventually got to the point where I had to negotiate an exit.
Right.
And so they ended up going into a warehouse, sat there. And back in, when was it? About a year ago, maybe a bit longer than a year ago. I was like, what should I do with these things? He's like, dude, they're only good for scrap right now for parts. I can give you $30 a machine. I was like, fuck's sake. No, just wait for a moment. Then about 6 months ago, someone got in touch with me. And they're like, do you know where I can get any miners from? I was like, I've got 70 S9s. And I also had 70 Dragon Mints.
Oh my gosh.
Fucking useless piece of shit. And we negotiated a price of 1.5 Bitcoin for 70.
Oh yeah, well done.
Well, so interestingly on dollar value, I break even when Bitcoin gets around 95K.
Okay.
Because I took the 1.5 Bitcoin.
Got it.
So that would work out.
How much did you actually sell them for each?
I think it's about $700 each.
That's a steal.
I know, dude. When it came out, I was like, "Take my money." It might. I think it might have came down. I think maybe $650, and I had to pay for some repairs.
Got it.
Because a few of them needed repair. But in the end, it was like, okay, that's great. I'll hold that Bitcoin. And
so let's unpack that just a little bit more, because so many people have a very similar story. So you had 70 S9s.
Yep.
For anybody that doesn't really know what that is, an S9 is a mining machine, and that thing uses about 1,400 watts, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have 70 of them, let's say you're using just under a kilowatt. Your home, like an American home, is usually wired for about 20 kilowatts. So it's like 5 homes worth of energy. So it's not like you can just plug them in anywhere. So you needed to put them somewhere. But that time in history, the hosting industry was still very nascent. Mm-hmm. The pricing was all over the place. You heard of folks getting 2-cent power, and then you heard of folks like yourself paying 18, 20 cents.
It was really hard to get power.
Right. It's really hard to get that much power because it's not built for that.
Yep.
This yet. You're retrofitting a warehouse or a
data hosting
or something
facility.
Like that. Yeah. I even have a story. We bought a couple of altcoin miners, had them hosted in China for like 25 cents a kilowatt hour. But the thing is, it was like the first gen of these altcoin miners are crazy profitable. So it was actually more profitable to keep them running in China rather than wait the 6 weeks that it would take to ship them. So we just like plugged them in. And we got some videos. Those were in some pretty sketchy conditions of those things running. But anyway, so these S9s, and then over time, they eventually got to the point where it doesn't matter what energy price you had, unless it was like 1 or 2, maybe even 2 cents, you couldn't make break even on an S9. I think Harry said that he would have been able to run an S9 even through the bear market of 2020. So like June of 2020, he would have been able to run an S9 profitably. Not very profitably, but at least, breaking even or turning a little bit of a revenue. But during that time, like you said, the S9s were effectively scrap. We were helping people find them just for the power supplies, because the power supplies, you can take those off and plug them into other machines. And so you would say, I'll buy your batch of 1,000 S9s as long as it comes with the power supply. Mm-hmm. And that was really the only way you could get rid of them. And people were selling them because they're like, I have a warehouse full of these things that are worthless. But now, an S9, we buy one for most of the people on the team so that they can get familiar with the ecosystem and run it. Like you can run an S9 at home on regular power, just one, and they're like $500-$600 now. So they didn't obviate as much as people thought. Like they thought they were going to be off into oblivion, effectively getting dumped into the ocean somewhere. But yeah, they're still profitable.
I thought I was going to get. Originally, I thought I was going to get about $450 for the Dragon Mints, but what happened was when the price dipped, they pulled out of the Dragon Mints. And I was like, fuck, stupid machines. So, most of those 70, I think only 39 were running.
Oh, okay.
They were shit.
Okay. So you didn't get S9s, you had Dragon Mints.
No, I had both.
Okay.
I had 70 S9s and 70 Dragon Mints.
So you had 140 total.
Yeah.
So yeah, you had a lot. Like that's actually like quite a lot of power. And
that's
really
a lot of power for a moron who's been in Bitcoin properly for a year and doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
Right. Yeah. So it's really hard to run a profitable Bitcoin mine at 18 cents. But actually, it's almost it is impossible to do. So.
But that was one of my biggest lessons in Bitcoin, because whilst I might break even on my dollar, I lost a lot of Bitcoin. We're talking about multiple tens in terms of buying the machines.
Oh, the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the paying, the loss on the cost. That was my biggest lesson about protecting Bitcoin.
Protect your sats.
Yeah. So my simple rule ever since then is every month I have to end it with more sats than the previous month.
Okay.
And I've had like 2 months where I haven't, because like I give some away. I sponsored projects.
Yep.
But generally speaking, that's always my goal.
Right. So, actually, I always ask this to people that have been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, what's your biggest regret purchasing something with Bitcoin? It sounds like this probably was it.
Yeah, it's a fair point, because like I don't tend to operate with too many regrets, because I think regrets can weigh you down.
Oh, certainly.
You keep thinking, like I've had
It's supposed to be a light question. This is not supposed to be very philosophical and thinking like, oh my gosh.
It is quite philosophical, right? And the reason it's philosophical for me is that I learned a few years ago, money doesn't buy happiness. It's such a cliche, but let me explain it. In that being poor sucks. I've been broke, right? So base level costs of life. If you can pay your mortgage or rent, pay your bills, your kids need shit, you can get that, and you go and do your shopping, you buy what you want, and if at any point you need to get on a plane, you can buy that ticket. I think once you've got that covered, everything else is about lumps in life. Okay, I want that car, I want that house, I want that plane. Those lumps never buy you happiness, but everything below being able to cover base costs can leave you to being sad. So I try and always go, actually, I have zero regrets. Like, I'm so blessed with the life I have. But now I've done the philosophical.
All right.
Yeah, of course, my biggest regret is those minors. But at the same time, it's been part of a journey of my life, which has taken me around the world, interviewing a range of people to be sat here right now in sunny Los Angeles, hanging out with you.
Yeah.
And I'm happy about that.
So maybe I should have phrased the question a little bit differently. What was your most expensive mistake? There you go.
Pete, stop being a wanker. Answer properly. The
miners.
The miners. The miners but that was a business side of things.
Okay.
Right? My most expensive purchase.
In terms of, so let me give you an example. I bought my mom a Target gift card with 1 Bitcoin.
Holy shit!
Back in the day, I used 1 Bitcoin to buy a gift card to Target for my mother for Christmas. And that thing's now worth 60. Well, we're going to find out if it's worth $62,500 or not at the end of this podcast. But
did she keep it?
The Target gift card.
Sorry, I thought you meant you bought her like a Bitcoin gift card.
No. I used Bitcoin
to buy a Target
gift card for my mother in December of what was it, like, I don't know, 14 or something, 13.
I mean, I've got a few of those, but like I was talking about this last night. Do you know Garzala?
What?
Do you know Garzala? She was there last night.
Yeah.
I was talking to her about this last night. I spend Bitcoin.
Okay.
I will spend Bitcoin because if I die, this is fucking useless to me, and my kids aren't just going to have my suffering and pain. They've got to go out and work themselves, right?
Got it.
So I spend Bitcoin, and I never tend to look back and go, will I regret that?
Okay.
I mean, I bought some cars earlier this year. I bought my son one, myself two, and my dad one, right? And I sold a small amount of Bitcoin for my son as a reward for him because he's just been so good to me.
Okay.
He's been very supportive of what I do. And then say the one I bought my dad, that if I hadn't bought my dad, that I would have bought Bitcoin.
Got it.
You know?
I see.
So, and those were all in the region of like 55 to 64. All happened around there.
Right.
They're all going to be negative Bitcoin purchases, possibly by the end of the day, possibly by tomorrow.
Yep. Got it.
I have no regret.
Right.
I see my dad. He's so fucking happy with his car. Like,
Got it.
He's the happiest guy alive. I like my car. My son likes his, and I would happily sell tomorrow, like a holiday. I'd happily take all my family on a great holiday.
Yeah.
Forget about that Bitcoin. That holiday could cost 10,000 in a year. It could have been worth 100,000, and so I don't care. Like I spend Bitcoin, and I'm happy about it.
People need to get to that point because I've always looked back at that. I've always looked back at that Target gift card or other things that you could use Bitcoin for back in the day, and always thought about what the cost of that was. But at the time, it brought a lot of happiness, to me and my mom. So
okay, my most expensive purchases is buying drugs on the Silk Road.
There you go. There you go.
When I first used the Silk Road, it was about 80. I'm pretty sure the first Bitcoin I bought on local Bitcoins was £80. Okay.
Yep.
So you needed more than 1 Bitcoin because when you're buying cocaine on the Silk Road, a good gram of coke was about £100. The best guy with the best reviews, and I bought a lot of fucking cocaine. Oh god! Do you know what? The same. My dad never listens to my fucking podcast. Occasionally listens to one. It's always one when I'm talking about.
It's going to be this one. Yeah.
He's going to listen to this one.
It's totally going to be this one.
Fuck's sake, Pete. But I've probably spent well over $1 million on current price. On drugs. Fucking Tim Draper's got some of my Bitcoin. You know who bought the Silk Road Bitcoin?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
the U.S. Marshals.
Yeah, well, I had Bitcoin on the Silk Road when it went down. So Tim Draper, you've got 3 of my Bitcoin.
Think about how far we've come since then. Yeah, that's been a long time. This is actually a good point in the podcast to say that we should free Ross Ulbricht.
Yes,
let's get him out of there.
Ulbricht. Let's support Lynn.
Yep.
But also, wider than that, let's free all non-violent criminals. This fucking week, there was a guy in the UK, right? The headline was crypto trader sentenced to 13 months in prison for stealing £32,000 of electricity to mine Bitcoin. Okay. Firstly,
there's a lot to unpack in that headline.
There is. Yeah. So firstly, he committed a crime, and he is a thief. I 100% agree with that. He is a thief. Is there any benefit to society or him putting that guy in prison? He's not violent. This wasn't a violent crime. This was just straight up theft. Is there a better way of treating him? Should he do community service? Should he clean shit off the streets or whatever? Should he, can we serve society better? Why put that fucker in jail? Jail's going to be a horrible experience for him. It's going to be mentally damaging for him. Speaking to anyone, I mean, Charlie Shrem did a long interview with Charlie Shrem about prison. It deeply affected him the 2 years he's in jail. What's the benefit to society? I think none. So yes, I absolutely agree. Free Russell Brick, but prison reform. Let's release all non-violent criminals. A big fuck you to the prison lobbyists, the prison industrial machine, which benefits from incarcerating people. Fuck them. Sorry, I'm having a rant. Really do this. Fuck them. Let's get non-violent. Let's keep violent people in jail. Sure, we don't want rapists and murderers and people who violently assault people on the streets. I think that's wrong. But do we want people who sell weed or any drugs for that matter? Do we want these people in jail? I don't agree with keeping non-violent people in jail. I think there's a better way to serve society.
And I think a Bitcoin standard solves this, fixes this.
I think you're right.
It
fuck the lobbyists.
Absolutely. Fucks the lobbyists. It reduces their power because they no longer now have the power over our politicians. Because as we say, we're demonetizing the political class by using Bitcoin. Getting into that sort of topic, I don't have a super strong opinion about prison reform. I'll just kind of piggyback off you.
Clearly.
I'll piggyback off you.
Well, I'll tell you why, because I spent a lot of time with Lynn Albright.
Okay.
I've interviewed her 4 times. I saw her recently in Miami. Every time I see her, she is an amazing person, a very strong woman who has had to see her son be sentenced to have the rest of his life in jail, and she's done everything to free him. But out of this, she got a bigger purpose in life, and her purpose was prison reform.
Right.
Now, she by going to the prison to visit Ross would see people, and it's a bigger problem in the US because you don't always get incarcerated where you committed the crime or where you live. You can be moved across the country.
All over the place, yeah.
It's a big fucking country. If you could have been a crime in New York and they put you in a prison in Arizona, how do your family and your kids come and see you? And if you've not committed a violent crime, if you've been sold weed and that's going to cause long-term damage to you, your wife, and your kids. There is literally no benefit to anyone apart from the prison system, which benefits financially from keeping people in jail.
Right.
I interviewed the Bitcoin vegan dude who spent some time in jail. That's coming out soon. And he talks about this. He talks about the essential slave labor within the prisons.
Right.
Gets paid like a fucking $1 a day to do work.
Yeah, I mean, this is a problem that, it's a problem around the world, but the U.S. has definitely succumbed to it recently. It's especially bad. It seems like, as you called it, the prison industrial complex is definitely around, and by using Bitcoin as the standard for for our monetary system, we defund that type of activity, that type of practice. It makes it harder and harder for that sort of thing to exist if Bitcoin is the backing for our financial system.
Great. Well, let's defund these motherfuckers. Right, man. We've got to get that price in a second.
Yep.
You broke my heart this morning, but it's my fault.
Why's that?
Because you told me where we would have done this interview if I'd come to Seattle. So people should know.
Yes.
People should know. Originally, I was going to come to Seattle.
Yep.
I overcommitted myself on travel, and I was fucked. And I was like, I'm going to go from Boston to Seattle to I was like, somebody's got to give. So I gave way on Seattle, and I appreciate you coming here. But I gave way on Seattle, but you told me this morning.
Yeah. So I actually know somebody that could have gotten us into the Crocodile. The Crocodile is the venue where Alice in Chains got famous, and actually the drummer is still a partial owner there.
Is it a studio or is it a venue?
It's actually it's a venue, so it would be like a show venue. So we could have done it like on stage or something.
Oh man,
we'll do another one. We'll do another one if hash price hits $1.
Dude, we're gonna do another one anyway for that. You've hooked me.
Okay,
but
got it.
R.I.P. Lane Staley is my absolute hero.
Absolutely,
love that guy. Love Alice. I think I've got 3 Alice in Chains tattoos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no. 1, 2, 3, 4 Alice in Chains tattoos.
Going to see the Crocodile, where that's where they started. That's where they came through. The drummer still is a partial owner there, and it would have been amazing. We could have done it on stage. We could have done it backstage. I don't know, but anyway, we could have made it happen.
And do you know what? I've got to get to Seattle.
You do.
I also want to get to the Boeing factory because I'm a plane nerd.
So, man, actually, I know a GM at Boeing. You can come. We can get you the white glove tour.
Tell you what I'm going to do. I am coming back to the US next March. I'm going to do a whole month in Austin. I'm going to set up a studio.
There you go.
And do all my interviews in Austin. I'm going to come out. I'll fly out to Seattle.
Okay.
I'll come there for 3 days first. We'll go to the Boeing factory. We'll go to the Crocodile. We'll record a follow-up. And then I'll head down to Austin.
Yeah, we'll see. Man, what do you think in March? Okay, let's put another bet out there. Another 50K sats.
Under, over.
So I'm a miner. Let's talk about hash price.
Okay.
So hash price right now is about 40 cents.
Okay.
Do you think difficulty is going to increase or decrease?
Let me think this through. I think it's going to... Well, it naturally has to increase. Unless the price drops.
Unless the price... I mean, the price would have to drop to like 20K.
So I think it's naturally going to increase.
Okay. So is that going to outpace the price appreciation? That's the next question.
So I think we go over 100K by the end of the year.
Okay.
I think we generally dump as ever. But I don't know how much we dump and I don't know how much we recover.
So we're going to double price.
Yeah.
Are we going to double hash rate?
Based on supply chain issues and infrastructure issues, I don't think we do.
We do not. So we're going to see hash price increase.
Okay.
So hash price about 40 cents right now. Do you think price outpaces by 20%? So 50 cents?
You give me a fair under over and I'll pick under over from it.
So at 40 cents today.
Yeah, what's your prediction what hash price will be?
I think we might hit $1.
Wow. Okay.
I think we might hit $1. But
I'll take under on that.
You'll take an under on $1?
I'll take an under on $1.
All right. Actually, that's going to be on March, or is it ever goes above $1?
It's the price when I land in Seattle and I see you. The moment we're first together, we'll check the price.
The hash price. Okay.
You can't ramp up your rates just to win the bet.
I do run the website, so I could make sure that it says $1.
Thank you if you do that.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do $1.
All right, another bet.
Under.
All right, Pete, we need your help. What's the Bitcoin price?
61.5.
Damn. Look at you, a perma bear.
All right, we won't do it now. It's a double of quits now, aren't we? We're a double of quits for March.
Okay. So March.
50,000 sats, Bitcoin standard.
So it's going to be 100K sats next March, probably coming your way.
Potentially.
We'll see.
All right, well, listen, look, great having you on.
I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you, man. It was a great conversation. Tell people about Luxor, where they can find out more, why they should consider them as your pool.
Yeah, certainly. So, US-based pool. We're going through all the things that you need to have, to be a compliant company. So we're doing a SOC 2 Type 2, all the things that you need to have a secure technology platform. So that's one of the things that we do. We have a great customer service arm that really tries to give people a warm welcome to the ecosystem. And then we also provide a ton of data on top of everything that we do. So we're a data-driven company. So if you're looking for insight into your mining operation, Luxor's there for you. If you're looking for insight into the overall mining of the ecosystem, we got hash rate index, tons of data there as well. Whether that's the rig prices, the hash price, whether that's the value of individual rigs or overall like the mix. We have all sorts of products out there, and so come check us out at Luxor. You can find me on Twitter, #_Bender. It's a throwback to Airbender, because we are always bending hashes around, moving hash between different places, doing cool hash rate stuff. So #_Bender, Twitter, Telegram, Nick at Luxor.tech if you don't like either of those.
And I'll give a final shout out to Colin for helping me with everything, and probably give a shout out to Compass as well. But look, appreciate you, man. I love this. It's great to meet you, and we will do this again end of February in Seattle.
Yep. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Peace out, brother.